Karen always believed every inch of the neighborhood belonged to the HOA. It wasn't written anywhere, but she walked around like she owned the place, clipboard always tucked under her arm, phone always recording, lips always tight with suspicion. The lake behind my property was her favorite obsession. She'd glare at it during meetings, question me in front of neighbors, make comments about community stewardship. So when she found out, officially, legally, undeniably, that the lake wasn't HOA property but mine alone, something inside her shifted. It wasn't disappointment. It was something sharper, like a wire pulled too tight. Her eyes didn't widen in surprise, they narrowed, as if calculating the loss of power. She stood by the edge of the water, her reflection trembling on the surface, and whispered, "This doesn't make sense." But the words weren't confusion. They were denial. 2 days later, I found her trespassing. It was close to midnight. The moon hung low, pale and weak, barely enough light to catch the silhouette creeping into my boathouse. At first, I thought it was an animal. But when I stepped closer, I heard the metallic scrape of a drawer being yanked open. I flicked on the flashlight I'd brought with me, and there she was, Karen, frozen in the beam, dust on her knees, hair wild like she'd been crawling through the dirt. She didn't scream. She didn't even look startled. She slowly stood, letting the flashlight illuminate the documents she had scattered across the floor, my deed, survey maps, old tax receipts. She'd broken the lock to get inside. "Looking for something?" I asked. Her lips curled into the smallest, most unsettling smile. "Proof," she said softly. "Something you're hiding. Something that explains why the lake is listed in your name when it shouldn't be. You're trespassing. You're lying." She stepped closer. The light caught the glint of metal behind her belt. A knife. Not a kitchen knife or some pocket multi-tool, no, this one had a black, ridged handle and a smoothed-out blade, the kind someone carries because they've practiced using it. Karen didn't try to hide it. She watched my eyes drift toward it, and her smile widened just a touch. "You don't even know what you're sitting on," she whispered. Her voice had changed, lower, warmer, like she was sharing a secret. "The HOA thinks you forged these. But I know you're smarter than that. Smarter than them." Her fingers drifted along the edge of my desk, trailing dust. Smart men always are. A chill ran down my spine. The air felt heavier, thicker, as if the lake itself was holding its breath. Karen wasn't just angry. She wasn't just territorial. There was something possessive in the way she looked at me now, as if the lake wasn't the only thing she wanted to claim. "You need to leave," I said. "I need to understand you," she murmured. "And I will." She stepped backward into the shadows, never breaking eye contact, and slipped out into the night with the confidence of someone who believed she still had the upper hand. And as I picked up the scattered papers she left behind, I understood something I should have realized earlier: the dock started as nothing more than a petty idea. Karen had pushed every boundary she could, trespassing, accusations, midnight searches, and I wanted to push back. Not with shouting or fines, but with something that would bruise the HOA's pride the way she had tried to bruise mine. So I started building. Boards, beams, posts dug deep into the mud. A private dock, my dock, stretching into the lake she believed should have belonged to everyone else. The first time Karen saw it, she didn't yell. She didn't march over with her usual self-righteous fury. She just stood at the end of her backyard, fingers gripping the fence, breathing hard as if she'd run all the way there. Her eyes burned. Nearly shaking. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about property anymore. It was personal. When I announced the HOA would have to pay for lake access, the neighborhood erupted. Meetings devolved into shouting. Threats flew. Someone slipped angry letters into my mailbox. But beneath all that noise, there was Karen, watching me in a way that didn't match her words. She played the role of the outraged neighbor, but whenever everyone else looked away, she stared at me like she was trying to read something written under my skin. Then the sabotage began. Ropes mysteriously loosened overnight. Support beams hammered crooked. Nails spread like caltrops along the path to the water. I knew it was her. No one else moved that quietly. No one else hated the dock enough, and no one else wanted my attention the way she did. The third night I caught her. This time, she wasn't searching for documents or muttering theories. She stood at the edge of the half-finished dock with a red gasoline can dangling from her fingers. The smell hit me before she even noticed I was there. "Planning on starting a bonfire?" I asked. She turned slowly, hair whipping in the wind, eyes wide and bright with something dangerously close to excitement. "If you wanted the HOA to leave you alone, burning this thing would help," she said. But she didn't take another step. She just watched me, waiting, almost wanting me to stop her. "You're not burning anything," I said. She smiled. A soft, mocking curve of her lips. "Then come get it." She stepped backward, and her foot slipped. The board under her heel was one she'd loosened earlier. It snapped. She gasped and fell sideways into the dark water with a splash that cut through the silence. I didn't think. I just dove. The lake was colder than it should have been. When I resurfaced, Karen was thrashing, choking, clawing at the air. I grabbed her, pulling her against me, keeping her head above water until we reached the shore. She collapsed into me, shivering, gripping my shirt with both hands like she was afraid the lake might steal her away again. Her voice trembled against my ear. "If you wanted me wet," she whispered, "there were easier ways." It was insane. She almost died. She almost destroyed my property. She wanted to ruin everything I built, and yet, in that moment, her words, her breath, her fingers tangled in my clothes, it hit me in a place I didn't want to admit existed. The HOA thought they could force me into submission. Fees, threats, violation notices, they threw everything they had at me. But the moment they realized the lake and the dock were legally mine, they panicked. Their leverage was gone. Their pride was bruised. Their money was draining. And in their desperation, they did the one thing they should never have done. They underestimated Karen. No one knew she had slipped into their building at dawn. No one heard her pick the back lock with a precision she shouldn't have had unless she'd practiced it. She moved through the office like a shadow, silent, deliberate, unbothered by security cameras she somehow managed to fry. She found the files, contracts, complaints, secret fines they'd tried to impose on homeowners. She stacked everything, photographed everything, and made it look effortless. When the HOA president arrived, she was waiting in his chair, legs crossed, knife resting casually on the desk, as if she'd just been filing paperwork. His scream echoed into the hallway. She didn't flinch. By the time police were called, she had already forced him to sign 3 new agreements, each one giving me more control over the lake than before, each one locking the HOA into paying triple for access. It wasn't about money for her. It wasn't justice. It was possession, twisted and simple. She wanted to prove she could give me power. That she could take something from them for me. When the hostage call went out, I saw the flashing lights from my dock. My phone rang. Her voice was shaking, not with fear, but with intensity so sharp it could cut through bone. "They're going to take me," she said. "And if they take me, they'll come after you next. They'll claw at you until they rip the lake out of your hands. But I made sure they can't. I did it for you. Karen, what did you do?" "I chose you," she said. "Now choose me." Sirens wailed louder. Police lines stretched across the parking lot. A negotiator shouted through a megaphone. But all I heard was her breathing on the other end of the call, fast, unsteady, hopeful. I walked toward the building. Step by step, past officers yelling for me to stop, through chaos and glare and desperate voices. The negotiator swore under his breath. someone grabbed for my arm. I kept walking. When I reached the doorway, she appeared. Knife in hand. The HOA president trembling in the corner. Her eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, everything, every threat, every lie, every destructive thing she'd done, fell silent. "You came," she whispered. She moved toward me like she always had, fearless and unhinged and certain. Her free hand reached for mine and found it. She squeezed, hard enough to hurt, as the police aimed their weapons. "If I go down," she said, inching closer, "you're going with me." But I didn't pull away. Maybe it was the danger. Maybe it was the chaos she wrapped herself in. Maybe it was that dark, impossible bond we created the night I pulled her from the lake. Or maybe I had crossed the line long before this moment. Because when Karen leaned into me, trembling and triumphant, I let her. And in that breath between surrender and disaster, I understood something terrifying.